patrickcc video, Drake and Josh finally explained their beef full documentary. They recently had a podcast together. I should go watch that after this. But hey, if you're new to the channel and haven't hit that subscribe button, please hit the subscribe button. Welcome back to everybody that has come back to the channel. I really appreciate that. And hit that subscribe button, y'all. We on the road to 1,300 subs, man. With that being said, let's get into it.
Iconic
It's a long
Nickelodeon
video. Let's get
sitcom
into it.
Drake
I don't
and
really
Josh,
wanna.
the two boys seemed to be
I
best
really wanna pause
friends,
it.
but that
We just
wasn't
gonna watch
exactly
right through
the
it. It's a
case.
long-ass video, bro.
One was going through some of
Long-ass
the
video.
darkest atrocities imaginable, and the other was also experiencing an extremely complicated childhood. But they did not tell each other what was going on, and as a result, the two had one of the most catastrophic public falling outs in Nickelodeon history.
Okay.
For years, fans have wondered exactly what went wrong, why their relationship soured, and recently they came together and discussed everything
knew it.
on a 2-hour podcast that connected all of the missing pieces that we were left in the dark about for decades. While most celebrity stories and feuds feel unrealistic and manicured to fuel public interest, the story of Drake and Josh's complicated relationship is very relatable. Sure, none of us can truly relate to the pressure of being a child star while also dealing with the horrors behind the scenes, but the complications between Drake and Josh resemble a
snack,
difficult
man, you know,
relationship
Rice Krispie
that
treat,
you might
man.
have with a
Come on, Rice
friend,
Krispie
uncle,
treats.
cousin, or other family member. One that follows a cycle of love, hate, tension, animosity, remorse, guilt, and reconciliation. Drake and Josh's story is not some fleeting celebrity drama. So today we're going to discuss the entire thing while addressing all of the nuances and complications of a real-life relationship. Drake and Josh's lifelong troubled relationship started from the very first time they met. Drake did not like Josh, and Josh was determined to win him over. The then 14-year-old boys met on the set of The Amanda Show, which was a sketch comedy television program that was essentially the kid-friendly version of Saturday Night Live, starring Amanda Bynes. Belle was a part of the cast since its first episode in 1999, while Peck didn't join as a regular until later seasons.
I came on The Amanda Show. We didn't get along at first, but I thought you were so cool and I really wanted you to like me. And then thankfully we had this shared love of old school comedy and sitcoms and great television. And so once you realized that I was kind of funny and I liked people who liked funny, we were suddenly like inseparable.
Yeah. At first, Drake was almost second to Amanda, and Josh came on as a tertiary character that they would sometimes make fun of. But once Drake and Josh had to collaborate on a sketch as two Italian mobsters, they realized their comedic chemistry was undeniable.
Tony Pajamas, what's your problem, Big Tails?
Yeah, what's your problem, Big Tail? I can't sleep. You want I should put her out?
Not yet.
Hey, cannoli?
Cannoli?
Bedtime story. She just wants to hear a bedtime story.
Hey, I got it.
He's got his.
And 25 years later, that chemistry is still there.
She wants to hear about a story.
Oh, you want to hear a story? I got a story. All right, so you got this. There's this guy, right? He's driving his bike, and he falls off, and his kickstand goes right through his leg.
Right through his leg.
Drake was an old soul as a kid, and became a huge fan of classic buddy comedies such as Abbott and Costello and Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis. Drake dreamed of one day having a comedy sidekick, and he officially found his match. The two boys became good friends off-screen as well. They would go bowling, hang out after hours, and even have sleepovers. The Amanda Show became the highest rated live-action program on Nickelodeon during its run, and while this may seem like an amazing way to start a child acting career, Drake was suffering unimaginable trauma as a file had infiltrated the Nickelodeon network. It's very important to remember that the general public was not aware of the information that you're about to learn until 2024, when it was discussed in a documentary called Quiet on Set. This documentary drastically changed everything that people thought they knew about Drake Bell. Drake Bell formed a bond with dialogue coach Brian Peck during the second season of The Amanda Show. Peck, who has no relation to Drake's co-star Josh Peck, would invite Drake to his house for acting lessons. These lessons were supervised by Drake's father, Joe, who was told that Brian Peck was a skilled coach who could help Drake secure more acting opportunities. However, over time, Joe became uncomfortable with their relationship.
And unfortunately, I started seeing Brian start to just hang around Drake too much. And it didn't set well with me. Drake would be in the dressing room or something, and in would pop Brian. And just touch Drake. You know, do things that, wait a second, what are you doing? Drake can put that on himself. And the thing is, this is in front of people.
Joe claims that while his
What
son
did you
was
do
in the
about it?
dressing room, Brian would touch Drake in front of others in ways that made him question Brian's intentions. Joe expressed his concerns with the production personnel and said he was uncomfortable with Brian, only to be called homophobic because of Brian's sexual orientation. Therefore, Joe backed off. Once this got back
What you
to Brian,
mean? That's his son. That's his fucking son.
he manipulated Drake into severing ties with his father/manager,
That's his
suggesting
son.
that Joe was sabotaging Drake's career. Peck subsequently integrated himself into multiple areas of Belle's life and became a father figure for the young actor. Eventually, Peck convinces Drake's mother to let him stay at his house during auditions. Then when Drake slept on Brian's couch, the sexual assault started.
I was sleeping on the couch where I would usually sleep, and I woke up to him. I just opened my eyes, I woke up, and he was sexually assaulting me. Why don't you think of the worst stuff that someone can do to somebody as a sexual assault?
No, that is crazy.
And that'll answer your question.
Drake wouldn't tell anyone for several months. The abuse persisted until Drake began spending more time at a girlfriend's house. One day, when he was supposed to meet with Brian, Drake said he didn't want to hang out. Brian then started calling his phone nonstop. When Drake failed to answer, Brian obsessively started calling his girlfriend's house, which is when the girlfriend's mother suspected something was wrong and took Drake to her family therapist. He later detailed the abuse to his own mother, who called the police. I had to be excruciatingly detailed about every single thing and time that it had happened with two absolute strangers. The worst part was I had to make a phone call to Brian and get him to admit what he'd done. The police monitored a wired phone call with Brian, who broke into a full-on confession that led to his arrest. The investigation was conducted privately, and Belle remained unidentified to the public for several years due to his age at the time. Drake also refused to tell anyone what was going on, not even his best bro Josh. As if this situation couldn't get any more traumatic and confusing for Drake, before the trial he also needed to return to Nickelodeon Studios to begin filming for his next major role on Drake and Josh.
That big break between Drake and Josh and Amanda's show is when I told my mom what was going on. We went to the police, the investigation, all of the stuff that you saw in the documentary. That was when all of that was going on. And then when we shot the pilot, we were in the middle of the investigation, but nobody had known anything because Brian hadn't been arrested. I had to come back, like the Amanda show, where the dude was, where the abuse was happening, having the monster in your own in your safe place. Still, where I felt most comfortable, where I was the happiest, was when I was on set with you guys. And the worst part was every day I got there was the monster was there, you know?
Even though Drake was forced to interact with his abuser daily, he did everything in his power to hide his pain and focus on his work. But Josh suspected something was wrong as Drake seemed standoffish.
I was just looking at it through the prism of a 14-year-old's brain, going like, he doesn't want much to do with me. And
Josh essentially thought that Drake just stopped liking him, not knowing the horrors of Drake's abuse. At the same time, Drake also felt a little bit of tension from Josh, but was blaming himself.
I've got all this stuff that nobody knows about that's going on. Is this gonna hurt our show? Is this gonna, when this drops, is Josh gonna look at me and be like, bro, you took our dream away. Like, you took my dream, like everything, like, are we gonna lose our show?
Drake even said he started losing his hair due to all the stress he was feeling. But then the investigation into Brian's crimes was coming to a close, and some of that pressure was starting to subside, knowing that justice would be served. Drake even decided to tell Dan Schneider about his abuser right before the trial.
And when Drake and I talked, and he told me
what happened,
I was more devastated by that than anything that ever happened to me in my career thus far. And I told him, I'm here for you. What do you need? Drake's mom, a lovely woman who I stay in contact with this day, she came to me at the time and she said, Dan, I'm not good with words like you are. And would you help me with my speech for the judge? And I said, of course.
Brian Peck was convicted of child molestation in 2004, pleading no contest to a charge of oral copulation with a minor under 16 and a charge of performing a lewd act with a 14 or 15-year-old. He spent only 16 months in prison and was mandated to—
It only got 16 months? 16 months?
to register as a sex offender.
That's
Josh,
crazy.
again,
16
unaware
months?
of what was going on, one day realized that he stopped seeing Brian on set and with Drake. So he asked Drake what happened.
I had a feeling because Brian, who was ever present during the Amanda show, and then he was gone, and I didn't know anything except I had a feeling something happened. And I remember we're in the car, it was you, me, and Jill, and I said, you still talk to Brian? And you just looked at me like, no, Brian's a really bad guy. And I remember thinking, gotcha. And it was all that I needed to know. And I didn't know anything more than that, but I was like, that's clear.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Although Drake's pain was not magically gone once Brian was arrested, he was able to find joy again in acting now that his abuser was not on set. However, Josh was also suffering from his own complicated life struggles. Now, by comparison, they seem menial to Drake's, but you have to consider that children feel like they are the center of their own universe, and they don't have that worldly perspective to make sense of their pain. Josh Peck was raised by a single mother, actually never even meeting his father. He was the result of a short fling his mother had with a coworker. Him and his mother went through drastic ups and downs, sometimes living a comfortable middle-class life, and other times not knowing if they will be able to pay rent. To compound this struggle, he was using food as an escape, leading to him becoming very overweight.
I didn't know that I was sort of eating in an unhealthy way. I just felt like I eat fruit snacks like every other kid. I just, do it in an excessive way. So I think that pain was just born out of what we all feel, is that it hurts to be different, and it hurts to know that life is going to be challenging.
Josh also used stand-up comedy and his television roles to escape his internal battles. Perhaps this is what made the two such a great duo. A silver lining to these young boys experiencing a traumatic childhood was that when they came together, they felt safe and comfortable. And because of that, they created one of the greatest live-action shows in Nickelodeon history. Drake Parker and Josh Nichols were two brothers bound by their parents' marriage, forced to live in the same house, go to the same school, hang out with the same friends, while having totally opposite personalities. Josh was the hefty, emotional dork, while Drake was a smooth-talking ladies' man who led a rock band. It was common that the Nickelodeon writers made Josh the butt of the joke. I mean, it's very easy to pick on the overweight, goofy kid. Drake, on the other hand, would often be this glamorized bad boy. He was lazy, rude, and self-centered. He would not stand up for his brother Josh. He would go hang out with girls and friends without him, and basically had a hard time accepting Josh as his brother.
Okay, here's my vision. I see your band in a desert. The sun beats down, little creature scampers by. Perhaps a lizard.
Oh, here's my vision. I don't care about your vision. The video should show off my band.
And although the show produced some hilarious moments when the brothers were pitted against each other,
I remember the one where they built the clubhouse and they didn't make, not the clubhouse, the tree house, and they didn't make the door. It was hilarious.
You started that fight. You calling me a liar? I ain't calling you
a truther.
The best episodes were usually when they had to work together to get themselves out of ridiculous situations.
You gotta get me out of this. I want to be cooler, but I can't go out there and play against the toughest team in the state. Okay. He's thinking. He's snapping. I got an idea. He's got an idea. Okay, you need to stop that. Done.
During season 3, Josh started to grow taller and lost a noticeable amount of weight, so the show's writers could not just resort to cheap fat jokes, but they still often made him a punching bag.
Why don't you just shave that thing off? No. All right, ever since I've grown this mustache, people treat me differently.
That's bad
I
mustaches.
get more respect.
Hey, Josh. Helen wants you to go down to the basement and empty the rat traps.
You see? Helen never let me do that before.
Package for Josh Nichols.
Thanks. Have a good day.
Don't tell me what to do.
Don't tell me what to do.
Although Drake warmed up to Josh eventually, his character remained the inconsiderate troublemaker, and often the show reminded us how rude he actually was.
I have to take Helen home, right? And I need you to follow me so I can get a ride back. Kiss pretty girl, drive brother in traffic.
While we know that this is merely just actors leaning into their characters for the sake of comedy, and now we love them both for playing these roles so well, you have to remember that the target audience for this show were children, and it appeared to them that Drake was the main character and Josh was the sidekick, which is essentially proven by the fact that Drake won 10 Kids' Choice Awards and Josh only won once. It was clear that Drake was the fan favorite, and Josh kind of understood because he also idolized Drake since they first met. But at the same time, Josh was 50% of the show. Some would argue that Josh's one-liners and physical humor is what actually made the show so successful.
Whoa, what's this? Just getting ready for my big dinner. Drake, what are you doing here? You're never home Saturday night. I told you tonight's my big fight with Lucy. No, you never said that. Never said that, okay? You never said you were gonna be home Saturday. Well, I am. Ooh, olives. Okay, paws off my olives.
In addition to this imbalance on screen, off screen, Josh was still going through tough times. Because of his weight, he felt like he was missing out on a normal teenage life, the life that Drake was seemingly living.
I just knew that I felt like because I was so insecure, I had missed out on a lot of my teenage years. It wasn't without lack of opportunity to go out and be a knucklehead and experience life. I just didn't want to do it because I didn't love the body that I was in. So I felt like if I didn't act now, I was going to lose some really important years.
Josh got sick and tired of being sick and tired, and he spent his summers walking through New York City for miles while slowly making better food choices. His consistency led to him losing a total of 127 pounds in 3 years. His physical transformation had a profound effect on the Drake and Josh show.
Made his head look mad big.
Make him more confident in pursuing physical comedy on screen.
Drake! Hang on, I'm busy. Mindy just told me she loves me. What? Oh.
Damn.
Tell me exactly how you responded when Mindy said, I love you. I didn't know what to say, so I just said, seeing chemistry, and I slammed the door in her face.
And as a result, season 4 of the show
this is what I was talking
about. Most hilarious and memorable moments.
You were supposed to cut it out with the power saw. Dude, I'm gonna. Oh, really? Yes. So go get the power saw. Okay, I will. I see the problem. Oh, do ya?
The Drake and Josh series premiere was watched by 3.2 million viewers, the network's highest rated series premiere in nearly 10 years. Episodes regularly saw viewership upwards of 5, 6, 7 million. As of 2006, the show ranked consistently among the 10 most watched cable shows across all of television. It was a certified hit, creating core memories for kids all around the world. After the show, people just assumed these two remained great friends and rode off into the Hollywood sunset, becoming successful actors. But that wasn't exactly the case. Drake continued his dominance at Nickelodeon as a top star. Josh, on the other hand, wanted to develop a career outside of the kids' network, while simultaneously entering the darkest part of his life. One might assume that his amazing physical transformation had nothing but a positive impact on his life, but Josh says otherwise. It became clear that once I lost the weight, that I was the same head in a new body. I had this illusion of becoming more confident and attractive when I was partaking. I was trying to quiet that voice that woke me up every morning and told me I wasn't enough.
What do you get when Zaxby's, an iconic chicken joint, applies its delicious crispy seasoning to shrimp?
In an attempt to live the teenage experience to the fullest while he still had a couple years to do it, he went overboard, falling victim to a dangerous drug and alcohol addiction.
And suddenly, I'm like now looking like a normal kid and a normal teen. And I'm like, oh, they do drugs and that's normal. And they go to house parties and they go to clubs. And they show up late to places and they're unreliable and that's normal. And I died to be normal. And I remember when I finally said yes, I had no conception that this drug would make me feel any different, that it was extreme. All I thought was, I hope she's watching. And oh good, I'm normal.
While Josh was going through hard times, Drake was receiving very consistent work over the years, doing voice acting roles in shorts, TV shows, and movies. His most notable role was Peter Parker in Marvel's Ultimate Spider-Man animated series. When he wasn't doing voiceovers, he was writing and releasing his own music. Interestingly enough, his records weren't very popular in the United States, but were huge in various Spanish-speaking countries.
That's
The Drake
fire.
and Josh Nickelodeon show was extremely popular in Latin countries, likely due to the excellent job the production team did with dubbing the actors' voices. Drake always wanted to be a rock star, ever since his earliest days on The Amanda Show in 2001. He released music consistently for 17 years, but received no gold or platinum records in America. However, in Mexico and other various Spanish-speaking countries, Drake Bell, aka Drake Campana, had multiple high-charting Billboard singles and albums. In some of these countries, he performed shows for thousands of people. He learned to speak Spanish. He has written and released a ton of music in Spanish. He even provides Spanish subtitles with every podcast or social media post he makes. People have joked on social media that he ran away to Mexico to avoid charges for 20 crimes, when in reality he was more successful there for over a decade. Most of his income in Latin-speaking countries.
And what's it like in Mexico? Like, because you moved to Mexico, right? It seems amazing.
It's unbelievable, bro. You have no idea.
Tell me more, Drake Campana.
It's unbelievable.
Drake
In
Campana.
Mexico, we were on Channel 5. We were like on After Friends or Seinfeld. You know, it's like we're on normal TV. Everyone watched us. We weren't a kids show. There's a place called Veeps. It's like Denny's. The menu for the children's menu is us, bro.
What?
Like when you buy Doritos, you buy whatever, and you open them up, like the little like prizes inside is us.
Despite Josh's
That's crazy. You didn't even know that
unreliability, he successfully broke the child star curse he was so desperate to escape from, and he did that with his role as Luke Shapiro in The Whackness. This coming-of-age dramedy set in 1994 in New York City follows a teenage drug dealer who needs weed for therapy sessions with his eccentric psychiatrist. Infused with 90s hip-hop culture, the film explores themes of adolescence, depression, love, and self-discovery. The Whackness premiered at the 2008 Sundance Film Festival.
It had no black people. I see no black people. You're talking about rap.
Josh had finally achieved success outside of the goofy fat guy trope he thrived in his whole career. Yet he realized it did not fill the empty void he was feeling in his life.
I had this realization, which was, oh no, you're bottomless. Like, you tried to fill this with food, then drugs and alcohol, and now like prestige, and none of it.
Nothing's gonna fill the void.
None of it. And I got sober 2 weeks later.
Luckily for Josh, he did not spiral deeper. He understood that he was trying to cure an internal problem with external solutions, and instead he chose the right path forward with therapy and sober living. He basically stayed busy every single year since then, securing a major film, TV, or voice acting role. He even took to social media, becoming one of the most popular creators on the 6-second video app Vine.
Hey, Josh. You just
Vine.
No way. You calling me a liar? I ain't calling you a truther.
Then again, neither Drake nor Josh's personal troubles made for viral headlines. Sure, TMZ did their standard coverage, and maybe diehard fans were concerned about the two, but generally speaking, the mainstream fandom were now in high school and college and focusing on their own lives rather than their childhood celebrity favorites. Plus, Drake and Josh were frequently seen together over the years. Here is a photo that Josh posted to his Instagram in 2012 of them hanging out at a house party. Here is another photo of them in 2013 at a Christmas party. In 2014, there were multiple photos of them together. Josh even personally invited Drake to have a cameo in an episode of Grandfathered in 2015, which was a show about a socially awkward yet lovable new dad who unexpectedly reconnects with his suave, restaurant-owning father, played by John Stamos.
You remind me of my stepbrother.
Oh, but is he awesome?
No, he's in jail for stalking Oprah. Anyway, let's get inside so you guys can buy me.
That's tough. I never knew that.
What do you want me to call?
It's my paycheck.
Because by that time, I probably stopped watching cable.
means an early payday.
Me dinner.
It's time for you to go, Kirk.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Go away. Have a nice night.
Don't tell me what to do.
What? Hug me, brother!
So it seemed like on the surface that Drake and Josh were friends. They were hanging out all the time and even collaborating. But it turns out that these meetups were actually extremely brief and infrequent. Quite literally just a quick little catch up because they happened to be at the same party. Drake actually wanted to be closer to Josh at this time, but was unable to express that to him.
Like when we were hanging out at Michael's a lot, and we were just, and like there was, I always felt like, what, like, man, we're all hanging, like, we got the same friend, like, we should be closer. There's something, like, I'm like, oh, I'm not cool enough to like hang out with Josh. Like, oh no, he's, you know, I'm not funny enough, or I'm not this, no, he thinks I'm this, and oh, like we were doing the same shit when we really should have just been like, bro, want to go grab some pizza and like play some video games?
And the result of this friction between the two would get blown out of proportion, because in 2017, Drake posted 2 tweets about how he was not invited to Josh Peck's wedding, which sent the media into a frenzy, speculating that Drake and Josh had some sort of falling out. When you're not invited to the wedding, the message is clear. True colors have come out today. Message is loud and clear. Ties are officially cut. I'll miss you, brother. From there, Drake also did a few interviews where he discussed his feelings about not receiving the invite, but he still expressed nothing but grace for Josh.
Friend, you're talking to your friend and you're congratulating him on, oh, I'm so glad you're, you know, engaged, congratulate, blah blah blah, and then you see on social media that he had a wedding, and I go, what? I didn't hear about it, I didn't know about it, and so I shot from the hip and kind of was like, what? This is wrong. Like, why am I finding out about this on social media? I just felt like a bummed out brother, you know, just kind of hurt, but it had nothing to, I mean, it does nothing to our relationship. I mean, we're brothers, we're friends. I mean, he's been one of my dearest friends for the past 18 years.
Josh was receiving a ton of hate for not inviting Drake to the wedding, and it really cast a dark cloud over this special night. The next time Josh saw Drake, which was at the VMAs in 2017, he asked Drake to apologize to his wife Paige for the tweets, and Drake happily did.
And I remember that I was at the Video Music Awards, and I see him there, and he sees me, and I go up to him, like, and this might be the most Sopranos thing I've ever done, and I look at him and I go apologize to my wife right now. And he goes, okay. And he like made a beeline for my wife, and I see him do like this whole 5-minute performance of an apology. And it was like, I was like, go apologize to my wife or something bad's gonna happen.
After Josh claims to have intimidated Drake, he ran up behind him and put a camera in Drake's face to vlog their reunion moment to show the public that they didn't have any real beef.
Come on. What's up, buddy? Is this happening right now live is this really right now live?
Stream live right now.
Oh my god.
Please
wait,
tell
is this
Facebook
streaming?
to be nice to me. Oh my god,
Please.
it's not even my fault. Just tell Facebook to be nice to me.
Listen, lay off.
Thank you. You heard that, Facebook? It's all good.
Chill out.
We love you.
Lay off, man. Alright,
I got $100 for you.
Drake and his ex-wife Janet said that this moment was actually sincere. The couples exchanged numbers and went out to dinner multiple times afterwards, seemingly rekindling their friendship. They even did some content together as Josh was pursuing YouTube very seriously.
That's Drake.
That's Josh.
And it's all love, people.
Back together again. We're all good.
That's amazing.
So,
Wedding looked like it sucked anyway.
oh, you.
Me? You know what? Mom never even liked you.
She's not our mom. We're not on a TV show.
We now know exactly why Drake was not invited to the wedding. On their most recent podcast, Josh revealed that Drake wasn't singled out. It's just that nobody from the Drake and Josh cast was invited. The only person from Nickelodeon that was invited to Josh's wedding was Dan Schneider, because his wife was friends with Josh's mom.
I love you. I love Miranda. There's so many people that I probably would now at 38 wanted there, but at 30, I just wanted to leave it all behind.
Yep.
Because it felt like it didn't serve me anymore.
Yeah.
And the realization I had was when, you know, you wrote that stuff during my wedding about like our friendship and all these things and our love and our history. I think you were living in the world of where our relationship should have been.
Right.
I was too much living in the past of when our relationship wasn't great.
Yeah.
And it was really somewhere in the middle.
At the time, Josh felt that he and Drake grew apart, but it was really that Josh wanted to leave everything related to Nickelodeon in the past, including a close friendship with Drake. This stung extra hard for Drake because he actually wanted to be closer to Josh, but because neither of them actually communicated how they felt on the inside, it resulted in this huge wedding blowout. It's also important to realize that this conversation that they had on this podcast in 2025 never was communicated before. So despite Drake and Josh publicly making up in 2017 and making all this content together, they never really addressed the problem. And then something weird started to happen. As Drake continued to do press for different projects, he still seemed bothered by the wedding drama. He seems awfully sarcastic and throwing shade towards Josh in interviews.
I don't know. Josh is busy doing stuff.
I'm sensing some shade.
No shade at all.
Nah, she's fishing. She was fishing.
The thing is we're just so busy. Like, I'm constantly on tour. He's constantly at David Dobrik's house. And, there's, not a lot of time to really...
Did he ever tell you why he didn't invite you? Did you ever get a reason?
He doesn't like me.
Stop. Is that really what it is?
Yeah, and the extra chicken would have been really expensive. It was like another $7.95 or something like that.
This interview got 6 million views, and all the comments were all taking Drake's side. Remember when Drake was the cocky one and Josh was the sweet and calm one in the show? But now it's the opposite. It seems as Josh sees him as just a coworker and Drake saw him as a friend. That's awkward. But then a few months later, they do more YouTube content together and everything seems totally normal and fine. And by the way, all of these videos have now been deleted from Josh's YouTube channel. And if you're having a hard time following this timeline and it seems very flip-floppy, one minute they're friends, the next they're not, and you can't really get a grip on it, well, you're not alone. It was these mixed signals that made for a lot of confusion.
Whatever the public's perception is of our relationship is or isn't, or what we should be doing to them, all I ever want to say to them is whatever you think you know of us is only half as deep as it really is.
Nobody could really tell if they were friends or just trying to remain relevant by milking the drama, or if they secretly were still mad at each other. But then behind the scenes, it got even more confusing when Josh pitched Drake an idea for a reboot of their classic Nickelodeon show. But the plot was seemingly set up to make Drake look bad. In 2019, Josh sent over the script to Drake. The idea was that Drake was going to be a failed musician, and Josh was going to be a successful real estate agent. They were basically parodying Drake's real life as a musician in Mexico, while Josh's character was entirely fictional. The opening line of the first scene was supposed to be one of Josh's clients recognizing him from Nickelodeon and saying their classic "hug me brother" catchphrase, only for Josh to deny it and say, "hug yourself, fuckhead."
And then he goes, "hug me brother," and then Josh gets in the car and goes,
"Hug yourself, F-head." And that alone,
that was the first thing that I was like, we can't open our show like that.
First red flag, because you just said F you to the entire Drake
audience.
And Josh fan base.
Yeah.
Then it transitions to Drake in Mexico performing at a quinceañera for the daughter of a drug cartel leader, where they are all drinking and doing hard drugs. Drake is also performing with a mariachi band. During the performance, the cartel members get loaded, and a massive gunfight breaks out, and they end up not wanting to pay Drake.
What the hell? Where's the show supposed to be on?
For his service,
Where is it supposed
which
to be?
ultimately leads to him being broke and stuck in Mexico.
Josh has Drake stuck in Mexico, has him tweet, "I need money," or "I need to do a meet and greet for money," and only has 3 people show up to the mall for the meet and greet so that Drake could get money back to the United States.
I'm not sure how real this is, but it sounds like some sort of Josh revenge fantasy for playing the goofy fat kid all those years. I don't think people realize that Drake worked hard to build up a Hispanic fan base. Making a reboot full of stereotypes, many hurtful, about this audience he built would cause Drake to piss off many long-term fans. Whether or not this script was real was never confirmed, but it did seem possible considering what unfolded next. Drake was about to face some major legal troubles for allegedly sexually pursuing underage girls, and Josh responded with a full-on press tour trying to convince the world that he and Drake hadn't talked in 10 years and were never friends. And that happened roughly around the time Drake was outed by his abuser for allegedly sexually pursuing underage girls. In August of 2020, Drake's former girlfriend, Melissa Lingafelt, who goes by the stage name Jimmy Ono on social media, posted a TikTok that jeopardized Belle's clean reputation. Melissa claimed that Drake committed both verbal and physical abuse during their relationship from August 2006 to February 2009.
When I started dating Drake, I was 16. I was homeschooled. I moved in with him. I was singing. It wasn't until about a year when the verbal abuse started. And when I say verbal abuse, Imagine the worst type of verbal abuse you could ever imagine, and that was what I got.
Now deleted.
It then turned into...
This shit is deleted. Why is it deleted for?
Physical, hitting, throwing, everything. At the pinnacle of it, he dragged me down
16,
the
that's
stairs
crazy.
of our house in Los Feliz. My face hit every step on the way down. I have photos of this.
Your face hit every step on the way down. The fuck? So you slid down?
I don't even want to get
That's
into
crazy.
the underage girls thing. I mean,
But
I
you're
really
underage,
am
though.
scared.
As if the allegations of physical abuse weren't shocking enough, Melissa hinting that he was somehow involved with underage girls set the internet on fire. Drake vehemently denied ever abusing Melissa. As our relationship ended more than a decade ago, we unfortunately both called each other terrible names, as often happens when couples are breaking up, but that is it. Clearly, Melissa still felt close enough to me just last year that she was comfortable reaching out to ask me to provide her with financial support during a tough time, which I did. The public opinion on the situation was split. While many people reacted with empathy and support towards Melissa,
Was it real
recognizing
or
the
not,
seriousness of domestic abuse, others were skeptical and expressed
Was it
doubt
real or
about
not,
her
though?
claims, especially since Melissa failed to provide any concrete evidence against Drake. Plus, Drake made it seem like she was doing this expose for money, casting doubt on her intentions. It was purely a he said, she said situation, and Drake
so it was
wouldn't face
nothing.
any legal consequences.
So it was bullshit.
Melissa, after spending weeks talking about the situation online, deleted all her videos and detached herself from the situation. But it only took a few months for more serious allegations to come to light and Drake's reputation to be permanently destroyed.
He
On
really
June
did
4th,
that shit.
2021, Bell was arrested in Cleveland, Ohio on charges relating to attempted endangering of children and disseminating matter harmful to juveniles. For context, child endangerment occurs whenever a parent, guardian, or other adult caregiver allows a child to be placed or remain in a dangerous, unhealthy, or inappropriate situation. Disseminating matter harmful to juveniles means that a person has unlawfully ordered, offered, sold, displayed, or given pornographic or obscene material such as books, videos, messages, photos, etc. to someone under the age of 18. To simplify, he was being charged with sexting a minor. However, the nature of the charges say that there was no sexual contact. According to the court documents, the date of the offense was December 1st, 2017. Bell was going to Cleveland, Ohio's The Odeon to perform a concert. Bell then seemingly invited the minor to his show in Cleveland. In the months leading up to the concert, Drake sent the victim inappropriate social media messages. The minor, who lived in Canada, attended Bell's concert in Cleveland. She and Bell met later that night at the Cleveland nightclub on Old River Road in the city's East Bank of the Flats district. In October 2018, 10 months after the incident, the 15-year-old victim filed a report.
So he sent you something and you went. And then 10 months later, you...
with her local
That's
police
crazy.
department in Canada regarding what had happened that night. This is all the information that was revealed in the case. So naturally, people were confused as this was all extremely vague. Even news outlets were unable to discern what actually happened.
Disseminating matter harmful to children. We don't have information on exactly what that is, but you can imagine a relationship between a 15-year-old girl and a 34-year-old man will let you draw your own conclusions.
Then his ex Melissa, who accused him of abuse on TikTok 1 year prior, did an exclusive interview with the Daily Beast where she claimed that she observed Bell's inappropriate behavior with minors firsthand. What he's being arrested for right now is a prime example of what I would witness. Him having inappropriate conversations online with underage girls. Melissa said, "I saw really questionable, crazy stuff on his computer. The stuff he'd be looking at was effing insane." These statements combined with the extremely vague court case details fueled the narrative that Drake was a pedophile. Now, it's important to consider that as soon as the victim reported Drake in October of 2018, Canadian authorities and Cleveland authorities promptly started an investigation. This investigation lasted 18 months, gathering all the evidence, photos, screenshots, and multiple statements from the victim to build a case against Bell. They even gained access to Drake's Instagram, Snapchat, laptops, everything they could. We don't technically know what they found, but whatever whatever it was enough to cause Drake to enter a plea deal instead of going to trial. And on June 23rd, 2021, he pled guilty to attempted child endangerment. So remember, all the details regarding his case were extremely vague, and then on top of that, he pleads guilty. So now the general public is extra convinced he is a PDF file. But somehow, it got even worse. Drake's sentencing was conducted over Zoom and then posted on YouTube. During this sentencing, the victim made an impact statement, which is essentially their opportunity to talk directly to the defendant and the judge to express their thoughts and emotions about the crime. This was the very first time anyone had heard the details of the alleged crimes that took place. But during the impact statement, the victim brought up countless new allegations and statements that were never presented during the investigation.
So she's trying to run it up on the nigga. That's what's happening.
Which shocked Drake, the defense, and even the judge. Remember, Drake was already pleading guilty to basically sexting, but since he was pleading guilty, the public assumed that everything the victim was saying here was part of the case, but it was not.
I started off as a fan of him. Everyone who knew me as a child knew that he was a hero to me. I would have done anything for him. When I was 11, I learned that my aunt had a mutual friend who knew the defendant. That led to my aunt taking me to meet him for the first time in 2014 when I was 12. From the time I was 12 to 15, my aunt took me to meet him and spend time with him many times. After I met him for the first time, he started speaking to me more frequently online. When I was 13, I went to him for boy advice. He told me that I was beautiful and that boys were stupid. He then sent me a photo of myself that he had screen capped from my Instagram, telling me that I was, quote, such a cutie. He saved that photo of me onto his phone. Another instance of creepy behavior happened when I was spending time with him at the age of 14. He told me that he couldn't believe how much I had grown since he last saw me. He said that I wasn't little anymore. And I was, quote, a woman now. But at 15, he started sending me messages about how, quote, hot I was. In the summer of 2017, I messaged him, telling him that I was going to see him in concert in the following months. He replied by telling me that he couldn't wait to see me. He also asked me, quote, how old are you now? I told him 15. He then told me to, quote, hurry up. Not too long after that, his messages to me became blatantly sexual. Aside from Cleveland, the only other time that the defendant sexually assaulted me was in October of 2017. It happened in Illinois in the middle of the night. He digitally penetrated me in the back seat of my aunt's car while she was driving me to a friend's house. This eventually led to many months of inappropriate messages and photos being exchanged over Instagram and Snapchat. The photos exchanged included photos of my body and photos of his body and his genitals. He would tell me how badly he wanted to penetrate me vaginally. On December 1st, 2017,
he was still 15, Drake.
my aunt took me to the Odeon Concert Club to watch him perform.
And you still win. Why you win?
Took me backstage to be alone with him. He started kissing me, and the night ended in him having me perform oral sex on him twice. The next incident happened on December 2nd, 2017. While I was alone with him in his hotel room, he had talked to me about seeing me one last time before we all left Cleveland and went home. So we went to his hotel to say goodbye. In his hotel room, he started kissing me and had me perform oral sex on him again. My aunt was right outside the room waiting in the hallway while this was happening. She trusted him and never thought that he would ever do anything to hurt me. The sexual messages continued for a while after that until I eventually put a stop to them. He ignored me for many days at first. Eventually, he tried apologizing to me for, quote, breaking my heart, but deleted those messages quickly afterward. He preyed on me and abused me. He is a monster and a danger to children. Jared Drake Bell is a pedophile, and that is his legacy.
People picked apart Drake's body language and pointed out that he was laughing, smirking, and shocked. But nobody mentioned that a lot of what the victim was saying here were new allegations that nobody in the court ever heard before. Specifically, the allegations that he forced the girl to give him oral and the allegation that he sent nude photos. The defense and the court both confirmed with evidence that no such sexual advances were made. Otherwise, the charges would have been more severe.
He did not plead to sexual misconduct or engaging in sexual relations. He pled to attempted endangering children and disseminating matter harmful to juveniles. These are serious allegations, but they do not involve sexual relations.
This is what Drake's defense admits to.
So he was just sexting by accident.
Your Honor, is for chats
it wasn't by accident.
Between he
Just chats.
and the victim. The subject matter of those chats were discussion because they had known each other for years, and there were claims that became sexual in nature. When asked, however,
at what point, or at your age, excuse me, at that point he said, can you hurry up, which shows a complete intent not to engage with a minor. So, however, those chats, harmful as they were, clearly harmed this person at that time.
They were sexual in nature.
Those were, yes. Thank you. They certainly, however, Your Honor, did not mimic any of the factual scenarios that the victim has brought up here today. And again, I have to emphasize the fact that once the age was known, that terminated at that point, saying hurry up with the age. But I will say this, at the start, he may not have known. He did learn of the age at a later time, Your Honor, and that is why he's accepting the plea.
Basically, Drake admits to conversing with a minor for years, even though he says he didn't know her age. Those conversations eventually turned sexual. Then when he asked for her age,
she says she was like 13. It was texting for years. Now she's 15. That's crazy.
Told him 15 and he said hurry up, then stopped all communication. When Drake stopped conversing with her, they claimed that flipped the young girl's world upside down and she started going after Drake's wife and threatening to expose him. They basically paint her as a crazy
So Drake just said that wrong thing right then.
Obsessed and jealous fan, which we don't really know if that's true or not. We can't say the victim is lying, and we don't know what evidence was found during the investigation because almost none of it was revealed to the public. But we do know she was bringing up new allegations in her impact statement that she did not formally bring up during the 18-month investigation. Therefore, they cannot be legally considered during sentencing. It's up for you to decide if she was just an obsessed fan that was jealous and trying to ruin his reputation, or if she is actually a victim of a corrupt legal system. Bell was sentenced to 2 years probation, 200 hours of community service in California, and cannot have any contact with the victim. He was not required to register as a sex offender. At the time, the public looked at Drake as a pedophile who got off with a slap on the wrist. Shortly after this trial, Josh Peck went on various podcasts claiming that he and Drake barely spoke and were never friends, and that's why he wasn't invited to the wedding.
Are you guys, like, not friends?
Not really, no. The dirty little secret, I guess, was like, I knew that Drake and I didn't stay in touch for the 10 years since we had made the show, but no one needed to know that. And it's delusional because I'm like, bro, it's like we worked at Coffee Bean when we were 16. Like, I'm sorry, I'm 31 now, I might have lost your number. I was happy to just die with that secret that, like, we made this thing that people really love, but maybe we weren't that close. So I didn't invite him to my wedding because I hadn't really talked to him in many, many years. Like, Drake and Josh is something I'll be synonymous with forever, and I'm proud of it. And I want to like the guy that my name is attached to forever. But unfortunately, you know, it just sort of worked out the way that it did.
It's pretty safe to say that there is enough evidence in this video to prove that this is a bold-faced lie. They were definitely friends. In fact, they often referred to each other as brothers. They even saw each other once per year, which is actually pretty frequently. A lot of adults don't even get to see their close childhood friends once a year. Now, we do know that they weren't extremely close. They weren't attached at the hip or constantly involved in each other's lives, but Josh is basically saying that Drake was nothing more than a coworker, he barely spoke to him, and he actually didn't even like him. Which means one of two things. Either this is actually how Josh felt deep down, and now he just has the perfect excuse to say it, or he's lying to the public to distance himself from Drake because of his legal troubles. And it was from there that Drake's life began to spiral out of control. On December 7th, 2022, eyewitnesses caught Drake in the driver's seat of his car inhaling a substance out of balloons while his toddler son and wife were in the back seat. The very next day, another eyewitness report captured him outside of a vape shop inhaling a blue balloon with his child in the back seat. At the time, Bell was still on probation for attempted child endangerment and was seemingly engaging in a recreational substance known as whippets, where people inhale nitrous oxide from balloons, causing them to experience euphoria, hallucinogenic states, and relaxation. This drug is also extremely addictive and dangerous. The weird behavior continued on April 13th, 2023, when the Daytona Beach Police Department listed Drake Bell as missing and said he had been last seen before 9 p.m. on April 12th in the area of Mainland High School. The department's post noted what car Drake was likely driving, a 2022 gray BMW, and said he could be considered missing and endangered. TMZ obtained a 911 call where someone from Orlando PD explained why police were deeply concerned for Bell's well-being.
Basically, there is a celebrity who had a falling out with his wife,
We got involved because the family, he's been texting the family in California saying that he's going to get drunk and hang himself. And he's in a hotel somewhere in Orlando.
Drake tweeted shortly after he was seemingly located, "You leave your phone in the car and don't answer for a night, and this?" While Drake seemed fine given the circumstances, the following week his wife filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. Per the petition, Janet asked for legal and physical custody of their son Jeremy, with Bell getting visitation rights. She also sought spousal support. Bell later revealed that he found out my wife filed for divorce from TMZ before promoting his new song, Going Away. In the song, Drake ironically sings about moving away to a remote island with his wife and son and starting a new life. Presumably unable to cope with the stress of losing his wife and child, eyewitnesses caught Drake using whippets once again on April 25th as he inhaled from a fully inflated balloon, merely days after the media publicized his divorce. When paparazzi asked him about it, this was his response.
There's some photos that surfaced of you with red balloons. What do you think? What do you gotta say about that, those balloons?
You know, it is what it is. We'll figure it out.
Everything's good?
Yeah, everything's fantastic, man.
Drake Bell was at the lowest point of his life. Drugs had taken over and he had nowhere left to turn but rehab. However, rehab changed his life more than he anticipated as he began to open up about his childhood abuse.
But when I got into rehab, it was a really intense facility. And I went through a lot of grief counseling and trauma therapy and group therapy and one-on-one. I mean, it was all day. And I was unearthing all of these things that I never talked about, not only never talked about with strangers, but even with people I was close to, had never gotten that deep about things that I've experienced and things that have happened. And I was around so many people who, for the first time, had similar stories or incredible trauma in their lives and were opening up and sharing. And that was the first time that I really felt like I was in an environment that was comfortable enough to share and felt comfortable enough around people that weren't going to judge and that really just wanted to see you get better.
During this time, a documentary was being worked on called Quiet on Set, The Dark Side of Kids TV, which aimed to expose the toxic and abusive environment behind the scenes of Nickelodeon in the late 1990s and 2000s, particularly under producer Dan Schneider. The doc features former child stars and crew members sharing accounts of alleged mistreatment, exploitation, and inappropriate behavior that went unchecked for years. After rehab, Bell felt like he had a revitalized outlook on his past and ultimately decided to tell his traumatic Nickelodeon childhood story to the world via this documentary.
Before the rehab, I had said no to the documentary over and over and over and over and over. I was not going to be a part of it. I didn't want any part of it. But after rehab, when I came out, I was like, let me see what your angle is here. I'll talk to you guys. I'll start entertaining this idea because I felt really good. And I felt maybe sharing my story will help me and maybe help others.
After hearing about Drake's abuse, the public did a 180 shift on him. His comment sections went from calling him a pedophile to sharing love, condolences, and positivity. People all of a sudden were empathetic. Some even used his past as an excuse for him allegedly engaging in inappropriate behavior with minors. They said things like Bell was a part of the cycle of abuse and couldn't control what was happening to him. It's true that childhood abuse can have profound psychological effects on survivors, including trauma, depression, and PTSD. Children who grow up suffering abuse may learn abusive behavior as a means of coping or as a model for how relationships function. Approximately 1/3 of all individuals who are abused in childhood will become abusers themselves, according to a study funded by the National Institute of Justice. A survivor of childhood sexual abuse may try to undo that abuse by taking back power. Someone who has been abused can play the role of the more powerful person in the relationship in an attempt to overcome the powerlessness they felt. One day after the Quiet on Set documentary released, Drake released a song and music video called I Kind of Relate. The song starts off with the lyrics, "I found beauty in my pain, I'm running away from the abuse and all the shame, 'cause no one comes to my house anymore, no one knocks on my door." These lyrics are complemented with a visual of him as a child entering his on-set trailer with a grown man who likely represents Brian Peck, his abuser. Then the track quickly transitions to his infamous 2006 car crash, where 19-year-old Drake Bell was stopped at a red light and a driver fell asleep at the wheel going 60 miles per hour, then crashed into his 1966 Mustang head-on. Bell broke his jaw in 3 places, fractured his neck, and lost a bunch of teeth. teeth. The song continues, I lost my path so long ago. In 2008, I found love in Mexico, because no one wants to hear me in the States, so I'm running away. However, Bell releasing this music video after the documentary made some people think he was being disingenuous, that he was essentially capitalizing off the publicity to sell a record. Others pointed out that he has been writing about the abuse in his music for years, like in his 2006 song In the End, where he wrote, the monsters in your head have left you all to yourself. It's alright if ugly little things remind you of how it felt. Another day no one tells you what it means, what's in your way and poisoning your dreams, the darkest place that you've ever been. Or in his 2020 track, What Is Wrong? Well, I wish I was a kid again, I would laugh and play, like we did back then. Would I be afraid of all the monsters who just left me here in these abandoned rooms? We all know that artists write music based on their real life experiences, and this is Drake Bell's story to tell. Did he pre-plan this song and video to drop at the same time this documentary came out for strategic business purposes? He absolutely did. But it's pretty safe to assume that Drake would 100 out of 100 times choose to not have experienced this horrific trauma. He would have rather had a normal childhood. And if the tiny benefit is that he can make a song about his pain, then so be it. You could also argue that all the people who didn't want to hear his story until he came out about his own abuse are more disingenuous. Plus the people that made the documentary are profiting off his story. Every YouTuber and TikToker and Twitch streamer talking about it are making money from it. That does not diminish or devalue the seriousness of his experience. From there, enraged fans began attacking his co-star Josh Peck, bombarding his comment section with hate, calling him an accomplice, and placing blame on him for Drake's abuse. They just somehow believed that Josh was complicit or aware of Drake's situation. Josh did make a statement on Instagram that he reached out to Drake privately and showed his support for the survivors that spoke out. Drake even asked supporters to take it easy on Josh.
But he has reached out to talk with me and help me work through this, and has been really, really great. So I just wanted to let you guys know that and to take it a little easy on him.
Drake asking people to give Josh grace is especially profound considering Josh threw him under the bus when Drake's allegations came to light. Then 1 year later, in March of 2025, Josh invited Drake onto his podcast to have a 2-hour-long discussion about most of the things we covered in this video. This pod connected some of the missing pieces the public had been wondering about their roller coaster of a relationship over the years. And even though this podcast had deep introspective moments, great laughs, and some reconciliation, some fans still believe there is a resistance from Josh. At the very end of this podcast, Josh's co-host Ben says, "I love you, Drake," and Josh laughs at that and even repeats, "I love you, Drake," in a mocking, unserious tone, only for Drake to respond with a genuine, "I love you, Josh."
Love you, Ben.
Dude. Love you.
I love you, Ben.
Great. I love you, Drake.
I love you, Drake.
Whenever Drake talks about feeling hesitant or insecure to reach out to Josh in the past, Josh doesn't try to make him feel better or be like, "You can text me anytime, man." He just smiles and nods. It's odd. Drake cares way more for Josh than Josh does for him. It's sad and hard to watch. I'm sorry, but I think Josh is using him to his advantage. He did the same thing a few years ago when it benefited him in his YouTube career and then dropped him again. So fake. Josh has disrespected Drake several times and he comes off as a hater. Now he wants to stand with Drake because of what Drake disclosed happened to him. Such a shame. Josh seems like a fake friend who wants Drake for views. Then again, two things can be true at once. Maybe Josh does see Drake's crimes as reprehensible and unforgivable, but at the same time, he can still feel empathetic for a friend who went through an extremely traumatic and complicated childhood. Even if Josh does still feel resentment towards Drake, whether that be for their complicated childhood or how Drake handled the wedding or Drake's criminal history, it doesn't change this absolute fact. These two are just not the two loving brothers that the fandom so desperately wants them to be. Drake and Josh's relationship is actually very realistic to the real world. It's just complicated. I'm sure you have a friend or brother or cousin or distant family member that you love deep down, but you also don't agree with their life choices, and maybe they piss you off sometimes, but also you understand what they are going through, and you truly wish the best for them. You also kind of miss them, and when you see them, you bond and have great times and good laughs. But then time goes by and you start to feel those same resentments, or maybe they mess up again, and you think, all right, I'm done with them forever, even though you know you're not. You never actually tell them how you really feel because it's awkward, or you don't think you should have to speak to them, they should just know. Or you're not about to tell another adult how to live their life. Or you are holding on to that love that you have for them deep down. And the only true way to get out of this limbo is to talk with them. But there is a possibility that even if you do talk, you could have a permanent falling out that could lead to you never speaking with that person again. And you might regret that until the day that you or they die. So what ends up happening most of the time is you never truly address those problems, even though both of you know they exist, and this cycle of love, hate, tension, animosity, remorse, guilt, and reconciliation goes on and on forever. This is essentially Drake and Josh's complicated relationship, only they are famous. And while most of you all probably have that type of relationship in your life, nobody knows about it. They have millions of followers diving and dissecting these extremely complicated nuances. So is their beef officially over? Well, this podcast would indicate so, but it's more likely that they are just in the reconciliation stage of their complicated relationship cycle. Maybe they will do another collab soon and seem like they are on great terms. But if their relationship is as realistic as we think, it's only a matter of time before the cycle repeats and fans start wondering again, hey, what's going on with Drake and Josh? I thought they were friends.
Yeah, as you made it to the end of the video, it's a long video, man. I appreciate y'all for staying this long and watching the video with me, man. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. We on the road to 1,300 subs. It's your boy Johnny Finesse, and I'ma holla at y'all.